The Queen just got dethroned in the most calculated, most ruthless, and most shocking betrayal we've seen in the women's division in years. What Alexa Bliss orchestrated against Charlotte Flair on SmackDown wasn't just an attack, it was the execution of a secret plan that's been months in the making, involving multiple conspirators, backstage manipulation, and a level of strategic deception that nobody saw coming until it was too late. Charlotte Flair, the most decorated women's champion in WWE history, the woman who's always 3 steps ahead of everyone else, just got completely blindsided by someone she never considered a threat, and when you find out who was involved, why they did it, and what this means for the entire women's division going forward, you're going to realize that everything you thought you knew about SmackDown's women's roster was wrong. Let me take you back to where this all started, because Alexa Bliss' plan didn't begin this week, it began months ago, and we all missed the signs. Think back to when Alexa returned from her hiatus. She came back talking about personal growth, about maturing as a performer, about wanting to prove she could succeed without relying on mind games or supernatural elements. Everyone took that at face value, including Charlotte Flair. Charlotte, who's usually paranoid about threats to her position, looked at Alexa's return and saw someone who wasn't a threat anymore, someone who'd moved past her main event days and was content being a solid mid-card performer who could help elevate younger talent. That assumption was Charlotte's first mistake. Because while Alexa was publicly talking about growth and maturity, she was privately seething about her position on the card. Multiple backstage sources are now revealing that Alexa felt disrespected by how WWE was using her after her return. She's a former multiple-time champion, a WrestleMania main eventer, someone who was at the center of WWE programming for years. And she came back to, what? Matches on main event? Brief appearances that led nowhere? Feuds with wrestlers who hadn't even been in WWE when Alexa was dominating the division? That's not growth, that's a demotion, and Alexa knew it. So Alexa started planning. Not loudly, not obviously, but methodically identifying the obstacle to her return to the top, Charlotte Flair. As long as Charlotte was positioned as the Queen, the top woman on SmackDown, there was limited space at the top of the card. Charlotte's presence, her legacy, her automatic positioning in championship programs had all created a ceiling that kept everyone else, including Alexa, from reaching the highest level. Alexa realized that she couldn't just beat Charlotte in a match to reclaim her spot. Charlotte loses matches all the time and it never affects her position. Alexa needed to do something that would remove Charlotte from her position entirely, something so devastating that Charlotte couldn't just bounce back like she always does. That's when Alexa started recruiting. The genius of her plan was that she didn't recruit people based on friendship or loyalty, she recruited based on shared grievances. Alexa went to every woman on the SmackDown roster who had a reason to hate Charlotte Flair, and there are a lot of them. Charlotte has spent years being positioned above everyone else, getting opportunities others didn't, winning matches that could have elevated other women, and generally existing as the glass ceiling that talented wrestlers keep hitting. Alexa didn't have to convince anyone that Charlotte needed to be taken down, she just had to offer a plan that would actually work. The first recruit was someone nobody expected, Bayley. Yes, Bayley and Alexa have history, and not good history. They've been enemies, they've had brutal feuds, they have every reason to hate each other. But Alexa approached Bayley with simple logic: you've beaten Charlotte before, but you've never been able to keep her down. She always comes back and regains her position. But what if we could remove her from the top entirely? What if we could create space for both of us to succeed without Charlotte overshadowing everything? Bayley, who's been rebuilding her career and trying to reclaim main event status, saw the strategic value of this alliance even with someone she personally dislikes. The second recruit was even more shocking: Bianca Belair. Bianca and Charlotte have had legendary matches together, matches that elevated both women. But backstage, there's reportedly been tension. Charlotte allegedly made comments about Bianca owing her career success to their matches, suggesting that Bianca's title reigns were only possible because Charlotte made her look good. That disrespect, that dismissal of Bianca's own talent and work ethic, created resentment that Alexa exploited. Alexa told Bianca, Charlotte will always see you as someone she created, someone who's only successful because of her. Unless we change the power structure entirely, you'll always be in her shadow. The third recruit is the one that really exposes how calculated this was: Asuka. Asuka and Charlotte have one of the deepest rivalries in women's wrestling history. They've main event WrestleMania together. They have mutual respect, or so everyone thought. But Alexa uncovered something: Asuka has been frustrated with her booking since returning from injury, feeling like she's been relegated to putting over younger talent instead of being positioned as the legitimate threat she still is. And Charlotte, whether intentionally or not, has been the beneficiary of Asuka's diminished position. Every time Asuka loses or looks weak, it makes Charlotte's past victories over her look more impressive by comparison. Alexa presented this to Asuka as Charlotte actively profiting from her decline, and Asuka agreed to join the conspiracy. But the real masterstroke, the recruitment that makes this plan actually work, was getting someone on the inside, someone close to Charlotte who could provide information about her schedule, her training, her mental state, her blind spots. And that person? One of Charlotte's own training partners. I'm not revealing the specific name because that's still being kept confidential for storyline purposes, but multiple sources confirm that Alexa convinced someone in Charlotte's inner circle to feed information to the conspiracy. The betrayal isn't just from rivals, it's from someone Charlotte trusted, which makes this cut so much deeper. Now let's talk about the plan itself, because the execution was flawless. For weeks, these women maintained complete kayfabe. They had matches against each other, they cut promos against each other, they showed no signs of working together. Bayley and Alexa specifically had a match 2 weeks ago where they beat the hell out of each other, maintaining the illusion that they were enemies. That match wasn't just a work, it was cover for what they were planning. Nobody suspected an alliance between women who were still actively feuding with each other. Meanwhile, Charlotte was being positioned for her next big program. There were plans for a championship match at the next premium live event, negotiations about opponents, discussions about how to keep Charlotte's reign of dominance going. Charlotte was in her element, doing media appearances, training for her next big match, completely confident in her position as the queen. She had no idea that while she was focused on her next opponent, an entirely different threat was organizing behind her back. The ambush happened during what was supposed to be a routine Charlotte Flair interview segment on SmackDown. Charlotte came out to massive heat. She's one of the best heels in the business and the crowd was ready to boo her. She cut her typical promo about being genetically superior, about being the measuring stick for the entire division, about how nobody on the SmackDown roster was on her level. Classic Charlotte content that everyone's heard before. Then she issued an open challenge to anyone in the back who thought they could step up to the queen. Alexa Bliss music hit. The crowd popped because Alexa's always popular, but there was also confusion. Alexa hasn't been positioned as a main event player recently, so her answering Charlotte's challenge seemed random. Charlotte had this smirk on her face like she was amused that Alexa thought she was on Charlotte's level. Charlotte even laughed and said, "You're serious? You think you can challenge me?" That dismissiveness, that arrogance, is what made what happened next so satisfying for everyone who's tired of Charlotte's superiority complex. Alexa walked down to the ring slowly, methodically, and she had this look on her face, not the playful Alexa, not the goddess Alexa, not any of her previous characters. This was focused, determined, almost cold. She got in the ring and got on the microphone. "Charlotte, you asked who's on your level. You asked who could challenge you. You've spent years looking down on everyone in this division, treating all of us like we're beneath you. And you know what? We're tired of it. All of us." That all of us is when Charlotte's expression changed. She realized this wasn't just Alexa. And that's when Bayley's music hit. Charlotte immediately got into a defensive position, backing toward the corner, realizing this was a setup. But before Charlotte could escape the ring, Bianca Belair came through the crowd and cut off her exit. Then Asuka's music hit, and Asuka came down the ramp. Charlotte was surrounded, 4 women closing in on her from all sides, and you could see the realization on Charlotte's face that she was in serious trouble. Charlotte tried to fight her way out. She's Charlotte Flair, she doesn't back down from anyone. She threw punches at Alexa, tried to spear Bayley, fought with everything she had. But 4-on-1, especially 4 women who are all main event level talents themselves, was too much. They took Charlotte down hard. And what followed was one of the most brutal beatdowns in recent women's division history. These weren't just basic moves, these were finishing moves from each woman. Bayley hit the Rose Plant. Bianca hit the KOD. Asuka locked in the Asuka lock until Charlotte was unconscious. And Alexa, standing over Charlotte's broken body, hit Twisted Bliss from the top rope. But they still weren't done. In a visual that's going to be replayed for years, all 4 women grabbed Charlotte and powerbombed her through the announce table. The sound of Charlotte's body hitting that table, the way she crumpled, the fact that she didn't get up, it was a statement that this wasn't just an attack, it was an execution. Charlotte Flair, the queen, the woman who's been positioned as untouchable for so long, was left laying, destroyed, while Alexa, Bayley, Bianca, and Asuka stood over her in a show of unified dominance. The crowd reaction was insane. Half the arena was stunned into silence, unable to process what they just witnessed. The other half was cheering because they've been waiting for someone to finally take Charlotte down. The commentary team was selling it like they'd never seen anything like this, which is rare because WWE commentary has seen everything. But this ambush, this coordinated assault, this calculated destruction of Charlotte Flair, it was genuinely shocking in a way that made it feel important and real. Medical personnel rushed to check on Charlotte, and the concern on their faces wasn't work. Charlotte legitimately took a nasty bump through that table and needed actual medical evaluation. She was helped to the back, unable to walk on her own, holding her ribs, clearly in pain. Meanwhile, Alexa grabbed a microphone and delivered the promo that explained everything. For years, Charlotte Flair has held this division hostage. She's gotten opportunities none of us got. She's won championships we deserved. She's been protected and positioned above all of us because of her name, her legacy, her father. Well, that ends now. Alexa continued, this wasn't just about tonight. This has been months in the making. Every one of us has a reason to want Charlotte gone. And we realized that individually, none of us could keep Charlotte down. But together? Together we're unstoppable. This isn't a faction, this isn't a team, this is a revolution. The women's division is no longer Charlotte's kingdom, it's ours. And if anyone wants to try to bring Charlotte back to the top, they'll have to go through all of us. That promo was perfect because it explained the motivation, it positioned this as something bigger than just a gang attack, and it created fear throughout the rest of the roster. If these 4 women could coordinate this well to take out Charlotte, who else could they target? Suddenly every woman on SmackDown has to consider whether she's next on their list. The psychological warfare this creates is massive. Now let's break down what this means for each person involved, because everyone benefits from this plan in different ways. For Alexa, this is her return to relevance. She's not the cutesy character or the spooky character anymore, she's the mastermind who organized the takedown of the biggest name in women's wrestling. That's a character evolution that positions her as a serious threat and a legitimate main event player again. Alexa Bliss just reminded everyone why she's a multiple-time champion and why she should never be underestimated. For Bayley, this alliance gives her power she hasn't had in a while. Bayley's been excellent since her heel turn and subsequent character work, but she's been somewhat lost in the shuffle recently. Aligning with this group, being part of taking down Charlotte, immediately elevates Bayley back into the main event picture. She's not just a former champion trying to reclaim glory, she's part of the new power structure controlling the women's division. That's significant for Bayley's positioning going forward. For Bianca Belair, this is the most controversial aspect because Bianca's been a babyface, a role model, someone kids look up to. Her participation in this ambush creates complex character questions. Is Bianca turning heel? Is she an anti-hero who did something wrong for the right reasons? Is her resentment towards Charlotte so deep that it overrode her usual moral compass? This moral ambiguity makes Bianca's character more interesting, not less, because it shows depth and motivation beyond just being the good guy who wins matches. For Asuka, this is about reclaiming respect. Asuka is one of the most decorated and dominant women's wrestlers in the world, but recent booking hasn't reflected that. By being part of this conspiracy, Asuka is making a statement that she's still a top-tier threat who demands to be treated as such. Asuka didn't just help take out Charlotte, she sent a message to WWE management and bookers that she won't accept being treated like a stepping stone for others anymore. The Charlotte Flair implications are enormous. Charlotte's entire character is built on being the queen, being genetically superior, being better than everyone else. That character requires Charlotte to be positioned at the top. But this ambush, this coordinated assault that left her broken and vulnerable, destroys that aura of invincibility. Charlotte can't just bounce back from this like she has from other losses. This was too public, too brutal, too definitively a case of her being beaten. Charlotte's character has to evolve or she risks becoming irrelevant if she can't adapt to no longer being the undisputed top woman. Charlotte's response to this situation will define the next phase of her career. Does she come back seeking revenge individually against each woman? Does she try to form her own alliance to counter this revolution? Does she have a crisis of confidence where she questions everything about her position and her character? Does she go darker and more vicious, becoming even more of a villain to match the threat she's facing? All of these directions would be compelling, and Charlotte's talented enough to execute any of them. But she can't just do the same queen character and expect it to work anymore. This ambush changed the rules. The rest of the women's roster now has to choose sides. Are you with the revolution led by Alexa, or are you opposed to them? Staying neutral might not be an option if this group decides that anyone not actively supporting them is an enemy. Women like Shotzi, Chelsea Green, Mikan, Jade Cargill, they all have to navigate this new power structure and figure out where they fit. Some might see opportunity in aligning with the group that just took out Charlotte. Others might see Charlotte's vulnerability as a chance to elevate themselves by being the one who stands up to this conspiracy. Either way, everyone's storylines are now affected by what Alexa orchestrated. The championship implications are huge. If Charlotte was in line for a title shot and now she's out of action recovering from the ambush, who gets that opportunity? Does the championship picture get reshuffled entirely? Do the 4 women who took out Charlotte start fighting among themselves for championship positioning, creating internal conflict within their alliance? Championships legitimize character work, so how titles get distributed among this group will determine whether this revolution actually succeeds or eventually falls apart due to conflicting ambitions. The tag team implications are also fascinating. WWE has women's tag team championships, and if any 2 members of this 4-woman group decided to team up and go after those titles, they'd immediately be the most dominant team on any brand. Alexa and Asuka as a team? Bayley and Bianca? Any combination would be money. But it also creates the question of who doesn't get to be in the tag team, and whether that creates resentment. The politics within this alliance could be as interesting as their conflicts with opponents outside the group. Let's talk about the broader WWE implications. This isn't just a SmackDown story, this affects Raw, NXT, and the entire women's division across all brands. If SmackDown's women are organizing successful conspiracies to reshape their division's power structure, what's stopping women on other brands from doing the same? Could we see a cross-brand women's revolution where female wrestlers across all of WWE start challenging authority, forming alliances, and refusing to accept the traditional hierarchy? That would be massive and could reshape WWE's entire approach to women's wrestling. The social media reaction to this ambush has been nuclear. Within minutes of the segment ending, Alexa Bliss, Charlotte Flair, SmackDown, and various related terms were trending worldwide on Twitter. Fans are divided. Some are celebrating Charlotte finally getting what they feel she deserves, others are devastated that their favorite wrestler got ambushed. Wrestling news sites crashed from traffic as everyone tried to read about what happened and what it means. YouTube reaction videos started appearing immediately. The engagement is off the charts, which proves that this storyline is connecting with audiences in a major way. The long-term storytelling possibilities are endless. This ambush is just the beginning. Where does it go from here? Does Charlotte recruit her own allies for revenge? Do cracks form in Alexa's alliance as individual ambitions clash? Does WWE management get involved and try to punish the 4 women who orchestrated this attack? Does this inspire a babyface women's coalition to form to stop what they see as bullying and gang warfare? Every one of these directions could sustain months of television and multiple pay-per-view programs. The WrestleMania implications are particularly interesting. We're building toward WrestleMania season, the biggest time of year for WWE. This storyline is perfectly timed to create major WrestleMania matches. Charlotte's revenge tour could culminate at WrestleMania. The Revolution's dominance could be challenged at WrestleMania. The Women's Championship match at WrestleMania could directly tie into this storyline. This ambush isn't just about immediate storylines, it's positioning the entire women's division for the biggest show of the year. Let's address the critics who might say this is just a gang attack, nothing special, we've seen it before. Yes, we've seen numbers game beatdowns before. But what makes this different is the planning, the secrecy, and the motivation. This wasn't a spontaneous attack, it was months of coordination and strategy. The women involved maintained complete kayfabe, even wrestling each other to maintain the illusion they were enemies. And the motivation isn't just we're heels being mean, it's we're talented women who've been held back by the same person for years and we're taking collective action to change our circumstances. That depth of storytelling is what separates good angles from great ones. The training and coordination required to pull off that ambush was significant. Those women had to practice that beatdown sequence to make sure nobody got legitimately hurt while still making it look devastating. They had to coordinate timing so that each person's signature moves hit in the right sequence for maximum impact. They had to sell the drama and intensity while executing complex moves safely. The fact that it came off as smoothly as it did is a testament to the professionalism and talent of everyone involved. The behind-the-scenes stories that are emerging about how this was planned are fascinating. Reportedly, only a handful of people knew about this angle before it happened. The 4 wrestlers involved, a few key producers, and top WWE management. It was kept secret even from most of the roster to ensure that genuine surprise reactions would be captured on camera. That level of confidentiality is rare in modern wrestling where news leaks constantly, and it paid off because fans were genuinely shocked when this went down. The psychological warfare aspect cannot be understated. Alexa and her allies didn't just physically destroy Charlotte, they destroyed her psychologically. Charlotte's entire persona is built on confidence and superiority. Having that shattered publicly, being made to look vulnerable and weak, being left laying while 4 women she considered beneath her stood over her victoriously, that psychological damage might be worse than the physical damage. Charlotte will recover from bruises and bumps, but recovering from that blow to her ego and her character? That's much harder. The message this sends to WWE management is also significant. The storyline is metaphorically about women taking control of their own division rather than accepting whatever positioning they're given. While it's fiction, it also reflects real frustrations that women in wrestling have had about opportunities, positioning, and respect. This angle gives voice to those frustrations in a way that's entertaining but also meaningful. WWE allowing this story to be told could indicate openness to more empowered female characters who actively shape their own destinies rather than waiting for management to hand them opportunities. The match quality we're going to get from this storyline is going to be incredible. These are 4 of the best women's wrestlers in the world who've now been given a storyline with real heat, real stakes, and real investment from the audience. When they have matches, whether against Charlotte, against each other, or in multi-person matches, the quality will be exceptional because the storytelling foundation is so strong. Great storylines make great matches because wrestlers are motivated and crowds are invested. The faction dynamics will be endlessly fascinating to watch develop. Right now, they're united by common enemy and common goal. But what happens when Charlotte is fully taken out? What happens when championships become available? What happens when individual opportunities arise that only one of them can take advantage of? The tension that will naturally develop within this alliance could be as compelling as their external conflicts. Watching four strong personalities navigate their alliance while also pursuing individual ambitions is the kind of complex character work that creates legendary storylines. What Alexa Bliss orchestrated isn't just an ambush, it's a complete revolution in the women's division that changes every power dynamic, every relationship, and every storyline going forward. Charlotte Flair got destroyed, but more importantly, she got outsmarted by someone she never saw as a threat until it was too late. The Queen just got dethroned by a conspiracy so perfectly executed that nobody saw it coming, and the wrestling world is reeling from the implications. Whether you loved seeing Charlotte finally get taken down or you're horrified that your favorite wrestler got ambushed, you're talking about it, sharing it, and you're absolutely going to tune in next week to see what happens next. Because this story is just beginning, and if Alexa's plan to take out Charlotte was this good, imagine what she has planned for everyone else who might try to stop this revolution. The women's division will never be the same, and we're all witnesses to the moment everything changed. Point 8. Drew McIntyre destroys Cody Rhodes backstage at WWE SmackDown.